Hi, I'm Bill Gouveia, and I'd like to talk to you today about the upcoming override vote in Norton this Saturday, July 13th. A lot has been said about it, and a lot of information has been exchanged here and elsewhere, urging you to vote yes or vote no. I believe the overwhelming majority of you have already made up your mind at this point. So I'm not really here to try to sway you one way or the other. But I am sick and tired of hearing lies and misinformation spread and used to advance the personal and political agendas of certain people and groups in this town. I'm here today because I happen to have a lot of history and experience with Norton, town government, the budget process, and just living in this community that I love so much. And having the advantage of that experience, I want to share it. I want you to have the benefit of it. Before the election on Saturday, I want you to at least have the opportunity to hear the truth and the facts. Whether you listen to them and what you do with them is totally up to you. I've lived in Norton for the past 66 years. My late father graduated from Norton High, as did my wife and I, and later our sons. I've been a Norton taxpayer for 45 years. I was elected 3 times to your Board of Selectmen, starting in 1981, which just happened to be the first year Proposition 2.5 came into effect. So I got to help dismantle your town government at the time because we had to cut from the start. We were already over that arbitrary cap. So just know that we started in a hole. And now, after that, I served as town moderator for 12 years. I spent 15 years on your finance committee. As moderator, I appointed that finance committee, and I ran your town meetings. I tell you all this to establish that I'm not guessing at what I'm about to say. I've lived it. I've worked it. I've experienced it. I've been affected by it. And I've tried to change it for the better. And I still am. I'm not going to go over the mechanics of how an override works. You've heard it over and over again. And honestly, I don't think you really care. What you do care about is how much your tax bill increases and what it gets you. For 42 years, Norton has survived without any increase in the amount raised through the property tax except for the allowable 2.5%, which translates to 1.5% in your town budget. In that same time, the population of Norton has increased from just over 12,000 people to almost 20,000 people. That is an increase in the area of 65%. In those 42 years, we somewhat upgraded our public safety departments. We built a new $22 million middle school without an override. And we also cut many services either down or out completely in order to stay within the strict limits of Proposition 2.5. And although there have been attempts to do so, Norton voters have never approved an override, an operational override, to aid in the budget. So bottom line, despite a huge increase in population and costs over 42 years, Norton has never once approved an increase to deal with the growth and the rising costs. Never, not even once. And for 42 years, Norton has survived that lack of funding by using grants, reserve funds, savings accounts, and other one-time money, and by cutting services. But the well is finally running dry, folks. Yet there are those in our fine community who consistently and fervently tell you that our problems are the result of overspending and mismanagement. That your town officials, your friends and your neighbors who volunteer to serve you, have recklessly overspent and irresponsibly caused your taxes to increase. That your town budget, which is voted on by the people every year at town meeting has risen out of control and must be severely cut, although they conveniently never really tell you just what those cuts should be. That would require planning. Well, I'm telling you, without fear of contradiction and with 100% certainty, they are wrong or lying, and in some cases, both. But don't take my word for it, please. Just use common sense and logic. Think about it in really simple terms for a minute, and you'll see how ridiculous that assertion is. Now, if Norton has never approved any additional taxes over the Prop 2.5 limit in 42 years, how could the town overspend? How could officials spend tax dollars that you didn't give them? How? It's a physical impossibility. It's a lie told to you to soften the image of those who just don't want to pay additional taxes, even if it has become necessary. Look, if someone says, hey, I don't want to pay any additional property taxes, period, and I don't care what it does to services, then that's their position. There's no sense arguing. People are entitled to that position, as wrong as I and others may think it is. But I have no patience for those who don't want to say that. So they try to justify their position with false accusations of mismanagement and overspending. People who, for their own political and social gain, use this false argument to instill fear in the rest of you, to try to put blame, to give you someone to be mad at. People who use this argument are just misleading you intensely. People like developers who sold big houses, brought people in, made their money, and then don't want to pay any more taxes to pay for the demand in services that bringing all those people caused. Hey, they made their money. Let someone else worry about it. So they resort to scaring people. They shamelessly use senior citizens as pawns, telling them they are being disregarded and abandoned. But the truth is, senior citizens would benefit from the protection of services this override would provide, even with the difficult increase in taxes. I know many of you out there have already voted. Those who have not, I urge you to do so no matter which way you vote. I don't believe all no voters are somehow evil people who hate kids and young families. And yes, people are not anti-senior citizen folks who just love to pay more in taxes. Vote however you think is best. But know this, please. Without this override, important town services are in peril. And it will be worse next year, not better. By voting no, you are buying into cuts that will hurt Norton immensely, not just this year, but over the long term. You're avoiding the problem, passing it to future generations instead of solving it. If you don't care about police, fire, or educational services, vote no and live with the consequences. Get the town you vote for. But understand, you are voting for substandard services and lowering the quality of life in this town. And that has nothing to do with better management. It's the result of not adjusting for rising costs for 42 years. You are hiding the problem. You're not solving it. This townie will be voting yes on this important issue. because I cared about this town years ago, I care about it today, and I care about what it's going to be tomorrow. I really hope you do too. Thanks for listening.